the first thing I'd like to say is that even without spending a cent, like if you're just literally working on your laptop or your phone or whatever, you can probably do quite a bit to improve the quality of your videos by thinking carefully about the setup of how your room is set up. So having your device placed in the room such that the light falls on you in a certain way, and I guess like at a super basic level, that would be like, don't have a window behind you, so the camera shouldn't be looking at a window because that'll silhouette you. And Josh, jump in if you've got a different view, but you could have the window behind the camera, right, which would mean you're kind of facing the light. But what I've learned is that it's probably better to have the light kind of off to the side a little bit rather than directly in front of you. And that's kind of a typical thing I see when I see people on Instagram or whatever, like showing their setup. I see the light directly above the laptop or directly above the phone. And so actually it's probably better to have the light off to the side. So let me show you what I mean. Like if we look at a top view here, so if here's the camera, okay, and I've drawn a little camera icon there, but let's call it your laptop or whatever. And here's your mat or your reformer or whatever, where you're demonstrating. And the camera can see, that much. Well, ideally, you would have a light source somewhere around about here, at about a 45-degree angle. So not directly in line there, but about 45 degrees off center from where the camera is. So, in a perfect world, this would be where your window is in your room, or your light source in your room. And so if you can rearrange where the bookshelves are and move the couch around a bit and stuff so that you can set your room up like that, you'll actually get quite a better lighting than if you have the light directly behind the camera. And certainly if you have the light behind you, that's going to improve things quite dramatically. The second thing that you can do with lighting is ideally we'd have more than one light. So this is where you don't even have to spend money. You can just use like a desk lamp or a standing lamp from home, or a $20 lamp from the op shop or something like that. Like it doesn't have to be a fancy light. But ideally you'd have three light sources. You'd have this one here is called Josh, tell me if I'm wrong. Is that called the key light? Is that what that's called, the main light? And then you've got a second light here that would be about, roughly about half as bright, right? So it could be a globe that's half as powerful, the same distance away, or it could be the same light but just twice as far away, right? It's going to be half as powerful. So let's call it, twice as far away. And that would be your second light, and that would be called a fill light. Okay, and what that does is it just kind of this light, the key light, will create some kind of nice shadows there, but probably too many shadows. When you add the fill light, it kind of fills in some of the shadows but leaves it looking a bit interesting. And then the third light you'd want to have will be something behind that is shining this way, shining away from the camera, and that's going to illuminate the background. And that is called, I believe, what's that called? The backlight? Is there a name for that? The backlight?
It doesn't really have, it's just another fill usually, but
yeah, right. Yeah. I'm going to call it the backlight, even though maybe it's not the right name for it. So I'll show you what I mean by that on my setup. So at the moment I've got those three lights going. I've got a key light here, I've got a fill light, and I've got a backlight. So I'll show you what it looks like without. So this is with no lighting. I've got a window over there, but the blind's down, right? So this is not that awesome. And so if we just add in the key light, the main light, which is, if I'm looking straight at you here, the key light's at about 45 degrees off to the side here. You can see that illuminates me quite a bit, but it creates quite a lot of shadow. Okay, and that creates more interest than if the light is directly in front of me. It doesn't make me look like it's a portrait, passport photograph or something, but it's not the best in terms of clarity and picking up detail if you're trying to demonstrate exercises, for example. So when we add the fill light, you can see that starts to even out how much light is on both sides of my face. It's still more bright on this side. Okay, but it doesn't look like some kind of dark and noir portrait photograph or something like that. Okay? But you can see the background here is very, dim. And so when we add the background light, that just kind of pops out the background. And the thing about the background light is it's not in front of me, right? So the background light doesn't illuminate me, and therefore I don't have a shadow on the background. There's no shadow of me on the background. That's because the fill light the background light is basically behind me, essentially. So that's the basic setup of what that is. And I've got some lights here that are proper like photography lights, but you can do the same thing with your desk lamp and a fluoro tube and a whatever else. You can use cheap lights. It's more about the placement and which color globes. Like, so, some of those globes you get from the supermarket are like a warm white. They're more of a yellow color. Some of them are, what do they call it? Cool white. It's more of a white color. And so you just have to experiment depending on the color of your room and so on, and find what looks, what sort of makes you and your room look best.